things, and then we can talk about whatever I choose.
We can just do that if you want.
If I want, this is for you. This isn't for
me. I'd like to listen to what you want to pick at.
Me find some stuff I can pull up. Have we talked about the order of understanding, Moose?
No.
Okay. I'll start there then. I want you to understand, I guess, first, why I'm so concerned with like what the ball's doing on the lane and that kind of stuff more than I am with your physical game. Because there's this like thought in a lot of bowlers where it doesn't matter how I throw, it doesn't matter what I'm doing on the lane if I'm throwing it like shit. And it's just not true. You know what I mean? The being able to match up is way more important than executing a perfect shot or repeating perfect shots and that kind of stuff. And so your success in any given environment is how well you match up your physical game and your strategic choices to the environment you're competing in. So whatever your baseline physical game is fine. You know, within reason. I'm not saying if you're averaging 140 that you're going to go bowl the U.S. Open. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But at some point, it becomes a lot more about how are you going to use the physical game that you have in the environment you're trying to compete in.
Mm-hmm.
And that really doesn't have that much to do with a quality executed shot. That it has more to do with what choices you're making throughout a block and how many frames you're going to save of being lost compared to not being lost. Mm-hmm. So we teach from behind the pins backwards because ultimately the goal of the sport is to knock down the pins, right? And if I give you a solid understanding of what's happening on the lane and a good foundation, your physical game will begin to evolve around those choices. So if I'm one of those guys that's like, I want my ball to go long and flip hard, then what kind of style am I going to develop? I'm going to develop a higher rev rate. I'm going to develop more side rotation. The bowling balls I choose are going to be shinier and quicker and more responsive. And then my moves are going to be very lateral, where I'm going to be moving left, trying to find more oil frequently, and that kind of thing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Where if I'm one of those bowlers that likes to see more early hook, right now I'm almost doing the opposite. Right? I'm using more forward ball. I'm seeing the ball earlier on the lane. I'm figuring out how to use friction earlier on the lane differently. The bowling balls I choose are different, right? My speed and my rev rate choices are different. My rotation ranges are different. So what you're choosing to do on the lane has a direct impact on your physical game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure you've seen some of this before, and I know we've talked about some of it. Like I've done the pins with you at Fairfax before, right?
Yeah.
So we start there with, okay, if I'm going into a new center and you get a practice session or whatever, the first thing I'm looking at more than I'm looking at the lane is I'm looking at what the pins are doing, how much they're moving around, because that's gonna tell me a lot about the scoring pace. It's gonna tell me a lot about how easy it is for the pins to knock down, or like how easy it is for the pins to fall, that kind of stuff. So I'm looking to, everybody gets the flush strike, the one where the ball splits the 8-9, hits the 1-3-5-9, that kind of stuff. Everybody and their brother gets that. And if the scoring pace is high, that's not enough, right? If you have to average 7 strikes a game for 8 games or more, and it's getting to be where you might have to average 8 or 9 strikes a game sometimes, getting that flush hit is not enough. So if I'm making a choice to always use that part of the head pin, that part of the pocket to where I'm trying to go flush every time, that's going to be a different decision than if I'm trying to get the light hit. right? Because between the flush strike and the light hit, you have that 10-pin hit. And everybody gets there, right? Where you ring 10 or you flat 10, and it's like, man, I just can't carry today. And then you make a move and you 4-pin off of it. And it's like, well, the lane was easy because I could get to the pocket the whole day, but I can't carry. And so those are different choices, because now you have to figure out what choice am I going to make to consistently bring that light hit into play. Are you following that?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the opposite's true with a trip 4. And then some bowlers can get both, and sometimes you do things that bring both into play. And you're not always going to be the guy that carries the best in the building. So I'm not saying they're all going to strike or anything, but it's a percentage thing. So then, based on what the pins are doing, okay, if the light hits in play, maybe I'm going to use a little bit more entry angle. That doesn't mean I'm going to use the most amount of entry angle I can use. It might mean I use a little bit more than I would typically use, because I'm trying to get my ball to use a little less of the head pin, so that head pin can come off the wall and maybe get the 5 into the 7, maybe get the head pin into the 9 pin, maybe get the head pin into the 10 pin when you're getting those messenger hits. But just like something like that. And again, it's a percentage thing. It's not that all of them are going to carry, but it's like if you get 2 or 3 of them to carry, a game, that adds up. So then I'm going to make a choice around what type of entry angle I'm going to use, and you might need some more experience and time on this if you get the chance to put out the triangles at your center. But you want to you're going to choose these based on 1, your physical style, 2, the environment you're bowling in, and 3, your arsenal. So you're going to pick which one you want to play based on you as a bowler. And I would say you lean more towards the steeper entry angles more than the shallow ones. Just at the moment. If you're going to be a professional bowler, I want you to be able to use all of them, basically. So then, when we talk about the rotation of the ball, the precession that I talk about, okay, at the pins, what direction do we want the ball rotating towards? We want it rotating basically towards the 5 pin. Because if the ball's rotating 2 end over end, it deflects too much. If the ball's rotating 2 sideways down here, right, it's going to want to go high. And then as it's in one of these triangles, we want the ball just rotating in the direction of the triangle. If it has too much side rotation, it's going to want to keep going here. If it's too forward, it's going to want to keep going back here. And then there's a speed component too, where if it's too slow, it's going to want to jump out. If it's too fast, it's going to want to keep going. But basically, we want the ball, as it's in one of these triangles, to just be rotating and curving in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
You're watching my screen, right? Because I'm like moving my mouse and stuff. I'm just hoping you can see it.
Yeah, I'm watching the screen. Yeah.
So then back here, we have the mid-roll phase, which is basically just how is the ball facing up to these triangles? How is the ball's rotate? The ball's going to be losing rotation as soon as it comes out of your hand, as long as it's in contact with the lane. If it's in the air, it's not going to lose much rotation, if at all. But as soon as it's coming into contact with the lane, it's going to start losing rotation. So through here, we're looking to see how is it facing up to these triangles. And then from back here, the initial roll phase, that's what you do to the bowling ball. That's what the bowler does. So based on what I'm seeing down here at the pins, in this triangle, and through this middle part of the lane, I'm going to adapt what I do back here to create something down here. It's not just, oh, I went high, I went light, right? I might go dead flush, but I see my ball have too much rotation, and it's like, okay, do I really want to keep doing that? Because in 2 frames or 3 frames, the lane's going to feel different because transition's happening. And is my ball's going to feel that transition. But if my ball's more forward through here and it's rotating in the direction I want, now it's not going to be so sensitive to that transition. It'll still feel it, but it won't be as dramatic as somebody who's trying to strike with more rotation down here. Is that making sense so far?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Have we talked about the muddy part of the lane?
Very little bit.
Okay. So it's 6 feet after the end of the pattern and 6 feet before the end of the pattern. That's very important, because if the lane is 40 feet, which would be right here at the tip of this rangefinder, right? 6 feet after the end of the pattern is 46 feet, and you're going to get carry down happening in that area. So that's going to be all the way from here all the way to roughly here. It'll go all the way towards the pins eventually, right? It'll get dragged down there, but that's where you're going to feel it the most. And then back here, the 6 feet before, right? It's going to be from 40 feet to 34 feet, which is here. You're going to see the most depletion. So if your ball is rotating too much through this 12-foot zone, it's going to be very sensitive, because back here, if it sees friction a little bit early and it has too much rotation on it, it's going to want to check. And then if you do something to get it through this friction, and now it gets down here into where that carry down is, now it's just going to keep going. So you need the rotation through this part of the lane to be matched up to where it's not so sensitive. It's like if you ever played football or played soccer outside or something after it rained, you can run in a straight line, no problem. But as soon as you try to like pivot or turn, you're going to slip and fall in the mud. Right? So we don't want the ball to really be changing direction that much, or visibly be having too much rotation in that muddy part of the lane.
Yeah.
And then all of this will affect your projection angles and the loft. I don't know how much you play with loft, but that's going to become a bigger thing over the years as these lane panels get older. But projection angles is just how much angle it's taking through the front. So Main Street. Here we go. You can see that. So most people are very concerned with how much they're projecting it through the front. Right? So I want you to be able to project it toward, no matter where you are on the lane, project it towards the 10 pin off your hand. I want you to be able to project it towards the 6 pin. I want you to be able to project it towards the 3 pin. Right? Okay, so if I'm trying to project it towards the 10 pin off my hand from right, I can do that. But what happens a lot of times is people will get over here and they're trying to play, 7, 10, whatever, and their launch angles are actually off the lane. And the only reason the ball stays on the lane is because of how much the ball curves, how much friction there is on the lane. So I don't need you over here trying to feel like you're doing this and then letting the ball curve.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if I have any videos. I don't think I do on this computer. Brian, do you have any videos of somebody we can look at from behind where I can where you can draw on them? I don't know if Brian disappeared.
He should be.
Can you see the ball motion on them? Can you draw on it in your app? Because who do you think whose angles get like really steep through the front of the lane that you work with, or maybe that you don't work with. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus if they're going to be embarrassed. Sure, pull them up. Yep. That should be a good angle for it. So I don't know if you could tell from that video just watching. Oh, you can draw on it. Perfect. From where he lays it down. Basically to the arrows, but his ball is actually hooking before the arrows. Like his ball, the angle through the front there is like towards the camera. Can you see that, Moose?
Kind of. Yeah, I see it.
So think about how that's going to affect what the pins do. Because now the ball has to curve, one, soon enough so it doesn't go in the gutter. And then it has to make its way all the way back up to the head pin and strike. And it's not that he can't do it. It's just over a long period of time, think about how that affects his pin action, how the pins move around. Where if he could shut those angles down a little bit to where even if he was throwing it at the 10 pin, think about how much more ball speed he would need to use, maybe how much less rev rate, maybe a little different bowling ball, just to shut his angles to where it's on the lane. So his ball roll, because it has to do all that to recover, he's relying on a lot of friction on the lane to help his ball recover for him. And in that particular center, in that particular environment, it's probably fine. But he would carry better for sure if he knew how to control that. He would choose a higher speed. He would choose more forward roll, maybe a little bit less rev rate, and then his pins would move around more because he's making those choices, and his ball would hit the pins with more speed. Yeah. Yes. And if you're bowling on something really hard, really difficult, where the scoring pace is low, like back in the U.S. Open when it was an open field, they used to have like 400 bowlers or something compete, and the scores would be really low because you would get all the amateur bowlers bowling that wanted to just bowl the U.S. Open. And the strategy there that a lot of the tour guys used was, I'm going to throw it at the 3-pin. So they got their angles closed enough to where they could throw it at the 3-pin, and they would make ball choices and speed moves and rev rate moves and all that stuff to allow them to do it, whether they were all the way left or all the way right. Right? Someone like Walter Ray might do it from further right, where someone like Tommy Jones was probably doing it from further left. But they were doing that because they were trying to not give away the head pin. They're like, I don't even really need to hook it that much. If my ball never gets away from the 3-pin, how am I going to miss the head pin? But if they tried to open their angles and throw it at the 6-pin or the 10-pin or even outside the 10-pin, like some of these bowlers are trying to do, all of a sudden their ball doesn't even fit on the lane. They're relying on so much friction or their rev rate or their lack of speed or whatever to keep the ball on the lane. It doesn't fit within the dimensions of the lane. What are you thinking when you're hearing this?
It just reminds me of some of the people I watched bowl on the team. Just watching the kind of shapes they use and stuff like that. Then also even my own self, when I go back and recall me throwing some shots, I noticed that I did not keep the ball in the lane sometimes.
A lot of time. If your angles
A lot of time.
get that open, yeah. Immediately, that's
Yeah.
off the lane.
Yeah.
And granted, like on some of the shorter patterns, okay, maybe you'll do that because you have to for whatever reason. There's that much friction, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, like even that, if you get your angles towards the 10 pin and you can get your speed up, and you can choose a ball that lets you do that. Or if you can't get your speed up, then you're gonna have to move around the lane to keep the angles on the lane. But the really good bowlers, when I watch them bowl, you can tell before the arrows whether or not their ball looks like it wants to strike, and not is it going to strike, because that's different, right? We can all tell, oh, that ball's going to strike, that ball's not going to strike. But you can watch some people and it's like, no matter what they're doing, it looks like their ball wants to strike. It looks like the pins want to fall. It's like those mixer hits or that messenger hit or that trip four, that was a no doubter, right? There was no question that was going to fall, but even before the arrows. Where when I'm watching this shot, I'm like, yeah, he's gonna struggle with carry. He's gonna struggle with carry, and he's gonna struggle to follow transition effectively doing that. You're probably a little bit too forward for how open your angles are. And that doesn't even have anything to do with the pattern at this point. That has to do more with just the dimensions of the lane and the ball roll you're choosing.
Like even there, that one was off the lane too.
Yep. One of the ways we talk about projection angles is like if you lay it down on 10 and you hit 10 at the arrows, that's 0. If you lay it down on 11 and you hit 10, that's +1. And if you lay it down on 9 and then you hit 10 at the arrows, that's -1. And we're working with Cooley and another kid on the Australian national team maybe a year and a half ago. And by the time we were in our second practice game, so not even in competition, right? It's just, 3 or 4 of us practicing on different lanes. By game 2 of one person on the lane, this kid was +13. And he was wondering why he's going on tour and leaving buckets all the time. It's like your angles are jacked up. So the ball choices he made, the moves he would make off of what pins he was leaving, that kind of stuff, were all screwed up because of just of how quickly he was. I don't even want to say getting left. He was getting left, but it wasn't the fact that he was standing to the left. It was about how open his angles were through the front of the lane.
Mm-hmm.
So plus 13, keep in mind that's like he was laying it down on, what's that, 23 to hit 10 at the arrows. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But he was at he was crossing like 16 at the arrows, so he was laying it down on like 29.
Uh-huh. Still is insane.
Yeah, I mean it is no good. But the reason we talk about these lane play zones, if you can see this, it doesn't matter what oil pattern's out here. If you can see this.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what oil pattern is on the lane. These angles, these zones never change. So no matter what you're bowling on, it's going to look basically the same if you're going to use this angle, or you're going to use this angle, or you're going to use this angle, or whatever. Okay, maybe you're entering the triangle from here. Okay, maybe you're entering the triangle from back here. Whatever. But it's going to look basically the same every time, no matter if you're on short, medium, long, high volume, low volume, whatever. How you create it will change, right? Like how you throw the ball, where you stand, what ball you're throwing, all that kind of stuff will change. But you're always looking for the same thing. So if you get good at identifying that doesn't look right or this does look right, and you can do that quickly, then the choices that you're making with your physical game and what you're choosing to execute will change throughout a block.
Yeah.
Do you have like any consistency to when you do well versus when you do poorly in terms of like what stage of transition you're in, or like what games you bowl well in, what games you bowl bad in, or anything? If you don't know, that's fine too.
I honestly have no clue.
Because those would be good things to get, because then we could talk about what are your strategies. Like if you're struggling in the first game or first two games, okay, what are your strategies for the fresh? If you're struggling in games like 3, 4, and 5, okay, what's your strategy for the blend? And then games 6, 7, and 8, what's your strategy for the burn? And they're all different. So the best bowlers can bowl well in every stage of transition. And that's how people win tournaments, because they're not losing pins because they don't know how to bowl on a certain part of, in a certain stage of transition.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know that, I would over the course of the year, I would be paying attention to when you bowl best and when you bowl worst.
Yeah.
Not so much about the pattern, but more about where you are in transition and that kind of stuff. Right, because like on a long pattern, okay, you're closer to the head pin typically. On a short pattern, you're further away from the head pin. It's like, okay, that's not rocket science,
Yeah.
I don't know. Is any of this stuff I'm saying triggering anything to you that where you like want to talk about it more, talk about something different? Because I don't want to be the only one talking, because this is for you.
Yeah.
So
I was just thinking about, like, I was trying to recall times of like when I did notice when I did bowl better or worse and stuff like that. I now that I think more back to it, I would say it's more on the fresh, and I tend to do better on the blend.
okay, why do you think that is?
I feel like on the fresh, I like just try and come in with too much angle sometimes.
Like you're trying to hook it too much to start?
Yeah.
We've talked about response times, right?
Yeah.
What is the response time of the oil pattern on the fresh?
On the fresh, it would be a slower, no, quicker response time, right?
Why?
Because the pattern's more stretched out, I think, if I remember.
The pattern's more stretched out? What do you mean by that?
So I don't know.
So the reason I keep asking these things isn't like for me or to like make you feel bad. It's because if you don't understand it, you're going to go through the same things over and over until you decide to understand it, I guess.
Mhm.
Being able to repeat back what we say is good, I guess. But if you don't understand how to use it and make it your own, it's kind of worthless information.
Yeah.
So the pattern is not stretched out. When people say a pattern gets stretched out, they're saying the oil gets dragged from the front of the lane all the way back to the back of the lane to where, you start creating carry down and stuff.
Mhm.
So on the fresh, there is not carry down there yet, right? The lane's freshly oiled. All the oil's up front and the back ends are as clean as they're going to get that day. So the
Yeah.
response time of the pattern is quicker because the pattern has not stretched out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I take, are you just saying it makes sense?
I'm writing it down so I remember. It makes sense.
I'm trying to find something. Can, okay. So give me a pattern length. Something that you don't like bowling on.
36.
Okay. .36 is about here because that trace finder's from 34 to 37 feet. Okay. Where's the muddy part of the lane?
6 feet before and 6 feet after.
Okay. On this pattern, where on this 36-foot pattern, where's the muddy part of the lane?
It would be at 30 and would it be between 30 and 36?
Yep.
And then it would be
No. Yeah. Okay.
and then it would be 6 feet after the lane. So it would be what, 42?
Yep. Okay. Okay, so that's the muddy part of the lane. I'll draw that again in a little bit. Okay. This is kind of how the lane starts out. Bear with me, I haven't done this before on paint. I usually hand draw this for people. Okay. So most of the time, you start off and you see there's a lot of oil here. You see how this kind of humps like this, how it's kind of round here? That's me trying to show that there's more volume here. So the lane machine oils the front of the lane, oils the front of the lane, and then it gradually oils less and less oil until it stops oiling at the end of the pattern. So immediately there's like a taper. So there's more oil in the front, a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less, and then nothing. You following me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. As we bowl on it, let me see if I can do this too. Try to get this side by side. As we bowl on it, what happens is this first. Length of the pattern, 36 feet. Okay. Then, okay, we've bowled on it for a while. So now there's going to be a little bit less oil here. I'm trying to not make that hump so big. And then now you're going to get little streaks. Might get a couple like that. You get a couple over there. Oh, I'm trying.
You're fine.
Might get some over here because it's shooting spares. Get some towards the 10 pin. Might not. Why didn't you say something, Moose?
I was trying to notice it. I thought I could.
You thought you could what?
I thought I can barely see right now, anyways, but I can see it now.
Moose, how am I going to know you're understanding something if you won't even tell me if it's not sharing? Okay, this left lane, 36 feet, right? Okay, this line that I'm like drawing my mouse over, that's the length of the pattern. Okay?
Mhm.
This is like a freshly oiled lane on the left. There's plenty of oil here. This hump I'm trying to show is like more oil. Okay? Then there's a little bit less, and a little bit less, and a little bit less, and then to the end of the pattern there's nothing. Okay, then this right lane is us after having bowled on it for a while. Now this hump isn't dramatic. It isn't as dramatic. There's a little bit less oil here, a little bit less oil here than there was, a little bit less, and now you're starting to see these streaks of carry down. So what you're seeing is the lane starts to feel flipped around. So there's a lot of oil going down the lane here, and then there's oil getting wiped away here. Okay?
Mhm.
So no matter where I'm playing, play fifth arrow.
Hello, hello.
Hello. So if I'm playing fifth arrow, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, I'm gonna call it fourth arrow because I had it drawn on this. Somebody's playing 10. One day I'm going to get this right.
What are you going over right now?
We're talking about transition stuff right now. So I'm drawing something that I'm going to start yapping again.
Gotcha.
Can you see my screen? Are you watching it?
Yeah.
Sweet. So Moose, this is just like a visual representation. So the muddy part of the lane that we talked about. Logan, have I talked to you about the muddy part of the lane?
Not much.
Okay.
At all, really. I don't think.
The gist of it is it's the part of the lane that changes the quickest and changes the most. So it's
Gotcha.
6 feet after the end of the pattern because you see all the carry down happening there.
Yeah.
And then 6 feet before the end of the pattern, you see the most depletion, most of the oil getting wiped away. So if
Gotcha.
you're roughly in that 12-foot zone, I'm about to draw it on this lane. If you're trying to use motion there, if your ball sees a little bit of friction early there, it's going to want to check. And then if you try to get it through that friction next time, and it'll see the carry down that's happening. So you want to typically use motion that's earlier than that 12-foot zone.
Gotcha.
So this is a 36-foot pattern. So 6 feet before the end of it is going to be about 30 feet. Going to be about here. And then 42 feet. Feet. 2 feet. So you're going to see the most change in that zone. So Moose, what you're seeing here with these red lines are people that are playing wherever they want to on the lane, because that's what you get in tournaments. People doing whatever they want where they think it's going to be the best opportunity for them to strike. Sometimes it's calculated, sometimes it's not. So whatever now, regardless of whatever angle they're choosing through here, I'm just drawing it. But you can see through the front of the lane, all of these are in, slightly different locations. But as they get closer to the pins, they're all kind of converging into that same location down here. And that's kind of what happens at tournaments. Because it's as we get closer to the pins, everybody wants the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're in Norm Duke or Belmo. As you get further away from the pins, that's where people's uniquenesses and creativity comes into play. So that's why I'm talking so much about the distance of things and the back to front type of motion and viewing it that way. Because sure, there's, some of this is lateral where, okay, you want to keep friction to the right of you as a righty and oil to the left of you. Logan, you're going to have to flip that in your head because you're a lefty.
Nah, it's fine. I got it.
Right, and that's relatively simple as a thought process. But you're still going to have to be able to control this distance because this taper that was started out, it started out with a lot of oil in the front and then it gradually stair steps down until there's nothing in the back end. That begins to feel flipped around to where it feels like there's more friction up front and it feels like there's more oil down lane, especially if your ball's more sensitive to that transition. Is that making sense, Moose?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I say that to you guys, what does that make you think of? What does that make you think?
I don't particularly have an answer for that.
Maybe just about how to take what you give us and try and engage it in our practices and tournament play. It kind of makes me think of like, how can I work on this?
Work on what?
In practice, like just trying to create the best like shape on the lane to where I try and keep friction to the right of me and oil to the left of me, using transition to my advantage.
When I'm talking about this stuff, I guess what do you think I want you to get out of it?
Well, I think at least like the main thing or like common thing is just awareness and ability to recognize things.
Okay. What do you think, Moose? What do you think I want you to get out of this?
Well, what Logan said, but then also be able to do it ourselves.
So the whole thing I care about is I don't care what you think, right? When you're in the middle of a tournament, I don't care what your move is necessarily. I don't care what your score is, what your pins are, whatever. Like, of course I want you guys to win because I'm rooting for you and I'm helping you and all that stuff. But I care about how you're thinking more than what you're thinking. I care about you guys being able to figure out anything yourselves. Because the stuff that I'm showing you is stuff that will work on any oil pattern, on any lane surface, in any environment in the world, for any style of bowler. Doesn't mean you're always going to win, but it works. It's stuff that doesn't change, right? We can change the environment, we can change the oil patterns, we can change the lane machines, we can change all this stuff, the bowling balls, the bowlers, whatever. But I can't do anything about the lane. I can't do anything about how oil moves. This is how oil moves. This is what the lane looks like. This is what good ball motion looks like. I can't do anything about that. That's what it looks like. So I care about giving you guys the tools to figure it out yourselves. So yeah, the observation skills are hugely important, right? The level of detail that you can pick up on and use is huge, right? You need to be able to do that if you want to succeed at a high level. But I care a lot more about giving you guys the ability to figure it out yourselves rather than just being able to spit out whatever words, that I say.
Mm-hmm.
So Moose, when we're talking about it, we've worked together for, gosh, what, 2 years now, give or take. You've worked with Bryant for longer. At some point, you're going to have to make the decision, and it's a conscious effort that's uncomfortable, and it takes a lot of time. But you're going to have to take, at some point, want to get down to that level of detail that's going to get you wherever you want to go. If you want to be a professional bowler, the level of detail that you need to be aware of is way deeper than if you want to just bowl in college or bowl in local tournaments and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Right? Because the competition level's higher. You don't have as much time to figure things out because those guys figure it out way faster than everybody else, like that kind of stuff. So you don't have frames to waste on, did I throw it good? Did I throw it bad? Oh, I missed the move, now I'm 4 frames behind, that kind of stuff. So that's got to come from you. The how do I work on it? You got to watch your ball. You got to watch your ball the whole time. And you can't second guess yourself on, did I throw it good? Did I throw it bad? It's like, okay, I threw it bad, but how did I throw it bad? What did I expect the ball to do off my hand? And it can't be, a fake thing of, oh yeah, I expected that to your buddy because you don't want to seem like you don't know what you're doing. It's got to be like you take full ownership of your own development and say, oh, yep, I'm confused. I don't know what's happening. Because the best bowlers in the world are confused about 30% of the time. And we're never going to get that down to 0. There's going to be some curveball where you go to an environment and you're like, I don't even know what I'm seeing. Maybe it's because you didn't sleep well or eat well or whatever, or maybe you're tired, or maybe you're just not paying as much attention as you need to. But there's going to be something that's going to happen where you're going to be like, man, what the heck's, what am I seeing? I don't even know. And you're going to waste frames doing that. But that doesn't have to be a whole tournament. That doesn't have to be 30 frames. That doesn't have, it only needs to be 1 or 2 shots where you're like, all right, I got to get my eyes engaged and pay attention. Mm-hmm. So you gotta own all of your development, the physical part, the mental part, the strategic part, to get wherever you want to go. Brian, anything to add? I know I'm just bitching at him now. Yep. When I go up to like Brad Center up in Buffalo, Logan Brad Angelo for reference. When I'm up there practicing, a lot of times I'll just be like, "Hey Brad, can you sit behind me? And I'm going to tell you what I think I'm seeing, and can you tell me if like what I'm seeing is right?" Because one, it's easier to see it when you're not bowling. It's easier to see it, when you're sitting down. And then two, having somebody's eyes that I trust to say, no, well, I saw your ball do this. And I was like, and then there'd be times where I'd be like, damn, I didn't see my ball do that. I thought I saw my ball do this instead. And they'd be two completely different moves, right? And if one time I'm like, oh, I thought I saw my ball get too end over end, too forward, and so it didn't hook enough, right? I could make a move to close my angles and get closer to the head pin. I could rotate it more. Maybe I move right and throw it harder. Maybe I loft it, right? Something to help it maintain some rotation down lane. And then there are times where, Brad would be like, no, I saw that ball get on top of the oil down lane. It looks like it saw some carry down, and it didn't look like it wanted to lose its rotation as it got closer to the pins. Right? And now I'm thinking, man, maybe I should slow down. Maybe I should, give it a little bit more time to read. Maybe I should get my rev rate up a little bit. Maybe I need a little different ball to make sure it's reading early enough that it's going to lose that rotation. Right? And now they're two opposite moves just based on me seeing the wrong thing.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So being able to dial that in, and the moves aren't based just on, oh, I 2-pinned, oh, I 10-pinned, I'm going to move one right, or I'm going to whatever. It's what's my ball looking like on the lane, and now how am I going to adjust off that? The best bowlers, they read rotation. Whether they call it that or not, that's what they're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're making adjustments based off that. They've trained their eyes to look for something specific. Some bowlers are better at using multiple shapes than others, but the best bowlers in the world, when you challenge them, can use a lot of different shapes. They can use every one of them that's on these lanes. And they can do it from the right gutter, and they can do it from the left gutter. Right, there are 7 arrows on the lane. If you want to be a professional, you just, they're there, use them. But they're reading rotation, and they're making moves off of that. Oh, that one didn't look right. I'm going to do this. Oh, that one didn't look right, so I'm going to do this. And sometimes it's a ball, sometimes it's moving on the lane, sometimes it's speed, rev rate, whatever. But they're doing something based on that. So I'm talking a lot, and I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over now. But it's that important.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
So what would help you guys we're here, what would help you guys understand it better, see it better, be able to use it for yourselves better?
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
How would you go to what is the exact way to put down the tape for the triangles? So if I wanted to put it down at the alley, I could work on stuff like this.
I can text you the instructions.
Okay.
Is your coach going to let you do it?
I don't know. I have to ask him. If he won't, then I won't do it. But I'm gonna ask him before I do it. If he says it's fine, I'll do it.
Okay, because you got to get under the pin setters for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you do it, just make sure the pin setters are off. I don't know how the string machines work enough to know if anything can kill you.
Yeah. There's just a bunch of strings back there. That's really it.
Nothing comes down. There's no rake or something.
No, we don't have a rake. It's just strings. The strings will just go up. A flat comes down, which is like a small, flimsy little flat. That's it.
Okay, so it's not like spring loaded where it's like,
No.
hundreds of pounds of pressure and it'll break your leg or something.
Uh-uh.
Okay.
Aww,
That makes me feel better. Yeah, then just remind me later, and I can send you that. I have that pre-typed for when people need it.
Okay, thank you. I feel like
Logan, I
that'll
know.
be. Oh, sorry, you go.
I was just gonna say, Logan, I know you don't have as much experience with this. I don't know if you've watched any of the other videos that Bryant recorded with these sessions or
I did
not.
not.
Okay, but yeah, I know you probably don't have as much, context going into some of this. So at any
Not
point,
really.
feel free to pause and ask questions or say, "Can we go over something?"
I just try to listen as much as I can. That way, if I do think of anything, then I have like a better way of explaining it and like asking about it.
Sure.
Because like, yeah, I don't really know exactly how I could help myself see
Yeah, you don't
these
know what you don't know right
better.
now.
Yeah.
Moose, is there anything else that you want, like, that's coming to your mind that you're like, can we look at this or talk about this or any of that stuff? Otherwise, I'm gonna probably do some stuff for Logan. That's probably a little bit of review on what we just did.
I kind of don't want to overwhelm myself for now. I just kind of want to work on this because I feel like if I give myself too much, I won't retain it.
Okay.
That's wise.
I think I think for you got to figure out how to make it your own and how to use it for yourself.
Mhm.
The physical part is important, but I think you get diminishing returns continuing to only focus on it. I'm not saying don't work on it, but I'm saying you got to do more to start getting better
It's more of like a secondary thing.
for sure. Because you're going to be competing and you're going to be traveling with your team, and they don't need somebody that's in the middle of a bunch of changes. They need somebody that's going to make their spares and strike when they can.
Yeah. Y'all don't care if I stay on and listen to what you're gonna say for Logan, do you?
No, I don't care at all.
All right, I'm gonna switch to my phone so I can go to the cafeteria so I can eat real quick before they close.
You see this again, Logan?
Yep.
All right. So this is like this make. Oh yeah, okay. This is like kind of a quick little intro to some of it. Some of it we've already talked about. I won't go over. I'll kind of speed run through some of the stuff that we've gone over. Unless you want me to slow down at any point, just let me know.
All right.
I talked about the dimensions of the lane to you when I drew out that lane the other day.
And I've kind of like processed more of it on my own and got more accurate specs of the lane scale and kind of like broke it down myself when I got home. So
did you? That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what this.
I also sat there and looked at the oil sheet where it says like 5, 10, 15, 20, and then you look at the width of the lane, you're like, this is supposed to be 3.5 feet. And you're telling me that's way bigger than 5 feet?
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
so
it doesn't make
bullshit.
any sense. But this is a piece of paper that's just folded.
Yeah.
And this is the scale of the lane.
Gotcha, yeah.
It's crazy.
It is definitely a big difference.
Yeah, they want to tell you their balls hook more than they do.
Mm-hmm. That and just simplify everything in a perspective rather than like truth. But
yeah,
even then, it's still not really accurate to perspective because it's not showing it from our view. It's showing it as a top-down view, so it's misleading.
Rick, when he worked for Brunswick, back in like the early 2000s, actually went to the people in charge out there and showed them all of this, and they were like, "You're right. You're absolutely right." And he's like, "So the marketing needs to change because you're not telling the customer the truth." And they're like, "Well, we can't tell our customer our bowling balls don't hook because they'll never sell." And Rick's like, "But they don't hook that much." And they're like, "We know, but we can't tell our customers that." So
yeah, that's the unfortunate thing because
they know they're lying and they continue to do it.
And they can't really do too much I mean, they can obviously
certainly
just
could.
like they could
They
just
certainly
blatantly
could.
be like, "This is how it is. Our balls don't hook as much as you perceive it as, and this
When
is how
Storm heard,
bowling is. This is a
when
constant."
when Steve
Uh,
Klompkin, he was the marketing guy for Storm, heard about it, he changed all the shelf talkers for Storm, not for Roto Grip and 900 Global, but for Storm.
just storm.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
it might be global now too, but definitely for Storm. And he drew the 3-dimensional lane that I showed you guys.
Okay, I got you.
Right, and like, sure, that's way better though than
Yeah,
trying
that
to show it
works.
from a bird's eye view.
At least it's honest.
Yeah, for sure.
I just meant like there's not. When I said there's not much they could do, I meant like in a sense of like you would have to change so many people's perspectives in order to make it make sense to so many people. But then again, it's also like you're still lying either way. Just tell the truth and let them have to learn it the hard way and figure it out. That's their problem. But
it they could do a better job in their ball review videos and giving out information on their websites and that kind
I
of
definitely
stuff.
agree.
There's a right way to do it without affecting people negatively.
Yeah. I got you.
But we talked about the optical illusions of the lane, talked about the length and the width. I don't think we've ever talked about this.
It's a little
object of-
like blurry because of resolution. There you go.
Better.
Yep.
Okay. So the object of the sport. The object of the sport is to knock down the pins. It's not to throw it pretty. It's not to play the lanes. It's not it's not to throw a certain bowling ball. It's to knock down the pins. So right now, when you go into a bowling center, you hear people talking about they got this new ball, they got this layout, they got this surface. They talk about the oil patterns and the graphs and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But back in like the 70s, they came out with like 2 balls a year from every company, maybe. And so nobody talked about bowling balls the way they did. And they hand oiled lanes. They didn't have these souped up lane machines that, would do whatever. It was just some guy oiling the lanes, and then they would oil twice a week. So what people talked about was carry. They talked about what the pins were doing. Oh, I tripped the 4-pin. Oh, I got that snap 10 hit. Oh, that flat 10 almost carried. Like, that's what they were talking about. They were talking about how the pins move.
Mm-hmm.
Now nobody talks about that. Like, how often are you going into league and you're hearing, man, these sidewalls are flying today, or this lane I can't seem to get the head pin off the wall, or why is that pin laying in the gutter there?
Yeah, it's definitely a very like rare thing to hear.
Yeah, but that's the object of the sport, is to knock down the pins.
Mm-hmm.
And people are ignoring that for the fact of the hundreds of bowling balls they have on the market now. So the textbook strike, do you know what that is? The perfect strike.
Strike. So I'm trying to like put the pins in front of my head because I was stuck with the order. For righties, 1, 3, 8, or sorry, 1, 3, 5, 8.
The 1, 3, 5, 9.
5, 9. Sorry, yeah.
Yep.
And
the 1, 2, 5, 8 for you.
Lefties.
Yep.
Yep.
So when you're going to, how do I want to put this? I'm trying to keep in mind how much experience you have and like how much you go and compete. But there are like some house bowlers that are averaging like 230 and 240 and that kind of stuff that you probably even know a couple of them. Especially at Woodbridge, one of the easier centers, right?
Yeah.
How often are they really throwing a strike that splits the 8-9? Like, how many times in a row when they're, to average 230 or 240, you're striking 7 times a game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Of those 7 strikes per game, how many of them do you think are realistically like, I split the 8-9 and I got that textbook strike?
Honestly, probably not a lot of them, I'd assume, just because of like one, I feel like with our conditions, it would be hard to have that many strikes and maintain that line consistently. and then rather than just to have like cater to their skills and just like splash the pins around. and just
Yeah,
go
I'm not
for
even
that.
talking about the lane or transition yet. I'm just talking simply about the pins. So the line and stuff is whatever.
I'm just saying, like, that's why I'm assuming it would probably not be
The pins,
textbook.
you're certainly right. Right. It's more about throwing the pins around, and when you're not perfect, having a chance to strike.
Yeah.
So we talk about what type of hit you can get. What type of strike can you get that other people can't get? Right? Because we're trying to find a way to be, to compete, to be better than people, to win, that kind of stuff, right? Because we're all competitive. So some people get the head pin off the sidewall and throw the messenger strike. Some people trip a 4-pin, or in your case, a 6-pin. Some people roll 2 pins, in your case, 3 pins. The late hit on the 9-pin for the righties or the 8-pin for the lefties. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Carolyn Doran Ballard, she gets the 4-5-7 to fall late. Walter Ray gets his ball looks like it's going to flat 10, and then that 6-pin, lays in the gutter and taps over the 10-pin. But most people, if they get that hit, move away from it. They're like, I don't even want to see my ball do that. But Walter, made a career out of that and has the most number of PBA titles ever.
Yeah.
And people don't want the type of hit that he gets. People don't want it. So for him, that's a uniqueness, because he's like, well, I'm willing to do something other people don't even like to see.
Yeah, he utilizes it because it's common for him.
Yeah. So figuring out what type of hits you can get and then making choices to bring those into play, because it's pretty easy to get a ball that's too strong and get your angles too open to the point where you go, for a lefty, you 7-pin a lot, and then you make a move and you 6-pin. Right? It's pretty easy to get to that point because you're in a ball that's too strong for your style, even though you're two-handed. It doesn't, it doesn't matter what your style is. The balls are so strong nowadays, and we don't bowl on that, that much oil, especially in these house conditions.
Oh yeah.
Especially in Virginia.
Yeah. That's not fun.
Fun, not fun, whatever. It's part of the challenge.
Yep.
And it's just easy to get into that area of the pocket where you can't carry. And it's easy to blame carry on that. And that's not a good enough answer if you want to be the best version of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
So figuring out what type of hit you can get is, one of the top priorities. Because then we have, from there we can build a strategy, we can build an arsenal, we can build physical ranges, that kind of stuff to capitalize on those types of hits that you can get. And if you don't have one, or you don't know what it is, then I would suggest developing yourself until you get one, until you figure one out.
Yeah, I got you.
Can you see ball and pin deflection? I'm sure you hear people talk about pin deflection. Oh, my ball ran over the 9-pin, or ran over the 8-pin, that kind of stuff. I'm sure you hear people talk about that all the time.
Oh yeah.
Do you ever hear people talk about how much of the head pin you can use?
Not too much from other people. I mean, I'll take into consideration light and high hits like myself, but I don't hear it from others too much. But
so you can see this, I think. Oh no, hold on, there's a graph. See if I can find it. Can you see this?
yep.
Just save that so I can zoom in. So you can see this.
Yep.
So when I'm talking about how much of the head pin you can use, right? if you're using less entry angle, which people will do on purpose, we can get into the strategic part of that later. But if you're using less entry angle, the ball's going to deflect more. So you get to use a higher part of the head pin and still strike.
Yeah.
So this shows the different parts of the head pin you can use based on your chosen lane play zone, your chosen entry angle. So most people these days are thinking these three are the best, and they're trying to use more angle and less of the head pin.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are some people that have made careers doing this. So I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong, one's better, one's worse, but figuring out what you can do, and the better you get, the more options you have, right? I would want if you're going to be a professional bowler to be able to do all of this on purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then it becomes a choice based on what you think's best in a given environment, rather than you just saying, okay, I can only do this one, or I can only do these two, and if that doesn't work, I'm screwed.
Yeah, I got you.
We talk about how the ball should face up to the pins, and that's why I was beating it into Moose about the observation skills and what to look for. Because your physical game will develop around your choices. If I'm choosing to use a certain strategy, I'm going to get better at that, right? So if a certain type of ball motion or ball roll is looking good, and I know why I'm choosing it, I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to get better at it. And so your physical game evolves around those choices. If I'm choosing, to use a lot of entry angle, I'm going to get better at using more side rotation and more launch angle through the front of the lane, maybe higher speeds, maybe more rev rate. And the bowling balls I throw are going to be to help me create that shape. If I'm trying to use less entry angle, I almost do the opposite, where I'm using less rev rate and more forward roll, higher speeds, less launch angle through the front of the lane, that kind of stuff. And so I'm almost doing the exact opposite based on that. And so think about how that will affect your physical game. Your hand's going to get to a different place. Your swing's going to change a little bit. Like all that kind of stuff just based on the strategic part of it. So if I give you a good foundation of understanding and, okay, this is what we're looking for and this is why we're looking for it, then your physical game begins to evolve because you're going to try to create that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like most little kids start out just wanting to hook the crap out of the ball nowadays. So by the time they turn 15, 16, and they start to hit puberty, they're wrenching on it. They're throwing it, a million miles an hour. They're revving the crap out of it. And then they go work with a coach and they, all they have to do is smooth them out. Okay, now we got to learn some control because you developed, the ability to hook the ball that much, whether it was two-handed, one-handed, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's how a lot of kids across the world are developing nowadays. There aren't too many people doing what Bryant's doing, and having as much of an impact on an area as Bryant does. So Bryant does a great job.
Oh, I agree.
So I won't get into all of this because this gets to be a lot to unpack. But basically, we're looking at how the ball's losing rotation on the lane and how it's supposed to be facing up. So at the pins, the ball basically wants to be rotating towards the 5 pin if you want to be striking. If you're using less of the if you're using less of the head pin, that means you need a little bit more side rotation. If you're using more of the head pin, that means you need a little less side rotation at the pins. And then, entry angles, same kind of thing, but it's within a small degree. So the lane play zones, I don't think you've really seen them beyond whatever random graphs like this I've shown or the drawing I was doing earlier. So we put them out on the lane sometimes with tape to give people a visual, and then let people bowl on it, and then those visuals help them begin to see rotation, whether it's conscious or unconscious, because it's like, all right, I want to keep the ball in that triangle, okay, and then they just start paying attention to it. Then eventually you get to the point where you can picture that without needing the tape on the lane. Rotational component of your own ball roll. Then you have to match the rotation of your ball roll to the lane play zones you're choosing. So can you change your hand position, your speed, your rev rate subtly to match each of those lane play zones? The top level bowlers can do that left gutter and right gutter, and they can use every one of those lane play zones. They're not. I won't say that. But the better you get, the more options you get. So we develop ranges so that you have the option to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to create bowlers that are conditional superstars. Well, I can do these couple of things and I can do them really well. But if I don't have that thing, then I'm not even competitive. I would be more inclined to do that for lefties than I would righties, because unfortunately the reality for the lefties is they can shut you out whenever they want.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, if you want to make money as a bowler, as a lefty, you kind of have to be a home run hitter. So when your uniqueness comes up and you're like, hey, I do this better than everybody, you better take advantage of it and win.
Oh yeah.
So I'm more inclined to be okay with lefties doing that than righties. But if they hit a different button and change the environment, you still need the skills to be able to figure it out if you're trying to be your best self.
Yep.
Muddy part of the lane, muddy part of the field. We already talked about that a little bit. Do we know what you want in the muddy part of the field? Fall on your butt a few times and you know what you don't want. Sometimes we learn by what we can't do. If you try to change directions too quickly in the muddy part of the field, you'll end up on your butt in bowling just like you would in any other sport. So if you're outside and you're running in the mud, like in the grass right after it rained, you can run in a straight line pretty good, no problem. But as soon as you try to change direction quickly, you're going to slip and fall.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing with bowling. 4 stages of ball roll. I don't really like teaching this. Rick likes teaching it because it makes sense, but I don't like people getting it confused with the skid hook roll nonsense that gets taught. The ball can't curve without skidding. But you have the initial roll, which is what the bowler does to the ball. So you're doing something to the ball. The mid-roll phase is what the lane's doing to the bowling ball. So at some point, right, the lane's going to take over and the bowling ball is going to do something because of the lane.
Yeah.
Then you have the impact roll, which is what we want to see it as the ball prepares to impact the pins. Right? And it doesn't matter if you're Norm Duke or Jason Belmonte, you basically want the same thing. Right? We all want to strike a certain way, and it doesn't matter who you are. Like as we get to the pins, everyone's looking for basically the same thing. Then you have the final roll phase, and that's what everyone's ball will look like once it has encountered enough friction. So that ball is going to be dead end over end. It's going to be rolling forward, and it's basically done hooking. It's just going to keep going in the direction that it rolled out in. So the science of ball roll and rotation is called precession, and the final roll.
Use that?
What?
I've heard you guys use that before.
Yeah, I try not. Some people, when you say the word precession, it takes their brain out of the artistic side of things. So I only use it around a handful of people, and most of the people I coach, it's if they tell me that they like thinking about it that way, then I'll talk to them that way. If they don't like thinking about it that way, then I talk a lot more about rotation than I do precession. But it's the same concept, right? I'm not changing anything. It's just the words I'm using to explain the same thing. Damn. This takes a while to do it justice. Basically, pacer is a shot cycle, and I can't say I've shared this. Everybody I've shared this with, this is the thing that we share basically at every camp, and it helps people immediately. So I won't go over all of it, but it's basically just a shot cycle. it's deeper than just like a pre-shot routine. But you prepare, and that's when you're off the lane and in the settee area, and this is where you're gathering information, you're sorting through it, and you're deciding what you're going to commit to. Okay, this guy's, for you, it's a little simpler because there aren't as many lefties.
Yeah.
You still experience transition because righties shoot left side spares, you're bowling on the lane, and then if you get another lefty or two, you still see transition.
Plus, if it's the first few shots, you still get a good understanding of what the lane's probably going to do.
Yeah, it's just the transition's slower.
Yeah.
But this is where you're gathering information, sorting through it, and committing to it. A is acknowledgement. This is basically when you start getting the shit out of your head. Your name's up on the arrows, and you're like, all right, I don't need to be looking around at everybody else. Well, it's my turn. I'm ready to go. And the strategic choices have been made, and it's now time to make the shot. So you don't need to be thinking about anything else besides you getting ready to make the shot. C is, reminding us of how committed we are before we make every shot. I'm standing here. I'm going to throw it like this. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm going to create. This is what I want my pins to do. And being fully committed before you even get up on the approach. Not, oh, I hope this works, or did I make the right decision, or, kind of doubting yourself in the back. Right? You want to be fully committed, and if you're wrong, you're wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to not strike every time. Nobody strikes every time. But you want to be fully committed.
More likely to be wrong if you're not committed to it. Because
even if you
execute poorly.
Yeah, even if you're right, you might be wrong.
Yeah.
Right. E is just execution, and then R is the reaction stage. And where most people get tripped up is they never get out of this. They go execute, react, execute, react. And so we started making the joke that they get stuck in the ER. So you're allowed to react however you want, kick the ball return, kick a baby, punch a wall. If you damage something or you hurt yourself, I'm not responsible. That's on you.
Fair enough.
But once you finish reacting to that shot, you have to get right back into that preparation stage. Yep. You have to get back to watching what's happening around you, making the best choices you can every time, because you get to control the pace and reaction of every shot you make. Right? I can't control what the pins do. I can't control what the lane is. I can't control all these different factors, but I can control my pace and I can control my reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
and if you're Chris Barnes, the ER is you bashing your spare ball into your bag. I got to watch that myself.
So, perfect game is not 12 strikes, it's 12 pacers. So if I did a full pacer every shot of a game or every shot of a tournament, I could not have done better that tournament because that was the absolute best I had. I was fully committed to every decision I made. I was watching, I was committed, I was doing everything the way I thought was best. Mm-hmm. And so no matter what the result is, good or bad, I have to accept that. So if it's a bad result, then I learn from it. Okay, where did I go wrong? What choices did I make that made that a bad tournament? Was it my execution? Was it my strategic choices? Whatever it was, but I can learn from that and adapt to it. But that was the best I had that day. The next day, my best will be even better now because I've learned whatever lessons I needed to. Hopefully. A lot of people don't learn whatever lessons. They just, I bowled bad and move on. Can you create a little bit more and a little bit less? Transition happens slowly. It happens subtly. I can't even say it happens slowly. It happens subtly. If you're waiting to make a big move, then you missed some smaller moves going on. But you're always going to be challenged with a little bit more, a little bit less. Do you have a little bit more speed or a little bit less speed, a little bit more rev rate or a little bit less rev rate, right? And you're going to find that in everything. So if you're, a lot of people nowadays are trying to use bowling balls to fill in gaps for transitional things. And it's just like how many frames are you going to get out of that ball? If you need a ball for game 1, frame 2, and then another ball for game 2, frame 1, you're kind of falling behind the pace, right? It's like you're not really striking enough at that point to do that. So being able to fill in those transitional gaps with subtle changes in what you're choosing to do is more effective in the long term than just doing it with bowling balls.
Gotcha.
Not to say bowling balls aren't important. It's just they're not. You can't have the wrong ball, but you don't need the right ball. If that makes sense.
They're not the priority.
Yeah, you need you need enough of a variety to be able to compete. But if you leave the building saying, "Oh, I wish I had drilled this ball," or "I wish I had drilled that ball," you're going to be playing that game for a long time, and you're never going to catch up to it.
Plus, you can't really control like what the balls are going to do. You can control what you do, and you just got to have the tools to just put yourself onto the lanes, basically.
Yeah, once the ball's in your hand, you're the one that's got to make it look right, and hopefully you know your arsenal well enough to know when, hey, this ball looks bad. I'm going to throw a different ball.
Yeah.
Can you move towards the friction, and can you follow the oil? Ultimately, when you're following transition, we're always doing that at one of those in some level. We're either moving towards friction and trying to find it, or you're trying to follow an oil line. Either way, we're attacking friction. The ball can't curve without friction.
Yeah. I love the simple answer that is right below that. Just yes, you can, and training is how you're gonna do it.
Yeah, Rick gets on it. Yeah, once you start looking at a bowler's style and you start seeing what their physical tools are, you have to develop those things.
Yeah.
You know, you don't watch much professional bowling. Do you know who Kelly Kulick is?
I've heard the name.
Okay. She won the Tournament of Champions, the men's Tournament of Champions. And so she had worked with Rick a week before they went out to the Tournament of Champions. She came to his house and worked with him. On the women's tour back then, because this was, I think, in the early 2000s, she was the woman on the women's tour that got furthest left and liked to slow hook the ball. And she was about to bowl the men's tournament of champions, and that doesn't work out there because their rev rates are higher, their speeds are higher, so they're just going to outcarry her doing that. Mm-hmm. So Rick taught her how to move towards the friction and stay in the friction rather than trying to, hook the lane with the guys. And she made history. She ended up winning the tournament. But she was with Ebonite at that time, or she was an independent, but she was trying to get staffed with Ebonite at the time. Gotcha. And so Rick was with Brunswick, so Rick couldn't be a ball rep for her, right? Like in the middle of the tournament. But right. So the ball reps from Ebonite were telling her, oh, you got to move left and throw the shinier ball and try to hook it more and do what the guys are doing. And she would, come back and whisper to Rick, like, what should I do? And he'd be like, no, stick to the plan, stick to what we trained for. And she did, and she made history being the only woman to win a major PBA tournament.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So, that example is like she could do it, but she had to learn how to do it.
Gotcha.
The phases of transition, fresh to blend to burn. I doubt you experience the burn very often. You probably experience some of the blend, but learning strategies to be able to move from there is important. I'm not going to go over those strategies right this second. But your transition moves should not be mystical or arbitrary. They're part of your training and preparation. Don't get caught guessing. So everybody likes to, I say likes to. For a lot of people, transition is this like weird concept of like we know what's happening, but it's like, oh, transition happened in the second game, and it's like, no, transition happened as soon as you threw that first shot.
Yeah.
So learning what's happening throughout that transition is important because you're going to have to deal with it every time you bowl, and how quickly it happens and the exact angles that it happens at, that changes every time we bowl. Mm-hmm. But the concepts really don't, right? Like oil's going to move towards the pins and oil's going to come off the lane. And I can predict with very good accuracy how quickly you're going to start to feel those things. I can predict, with it, if you have 4 people on a pair, within five, the first 5 frames of the game, of the first game, you're going to start to sense carry down. Even if people aren't throwing urethane, you're going to start to sense oil going down the lane. If you're bowling on a thinner pattern with less volume, you're going to start to sense depletion pretty quickly because there's less oil, so you can wipe it away easier. Right? Like, you can predict those things before you even need to throw shots. And so being prepared to deal with those things is very important. They're not random moves, the way a lot of people like to present it. It's predictable if you're paying attention and you know how it works.
It's constantly happening.
It is constantly happening. You know how to get started, so you have the tools you need to follow the phases of transition. Do you line up or warm up? The reality is you can't line up if you don't warm up effectively. Learn how to set up the pattern as you warm up, and it'll get easier to line up. So basically, you're not, when you're warming up on the lane, you're not trying to strike. You're trying to set the lane up for what it's going to be like during the game.
I get it, like paving a path for yourself. Since you're not going to be able to find a line right away, you're not warmed up right away, you'd rather just pave the path with that warm up, the awkward shots.
Even if you did,
the lane more.
Even if you did find a line when you're warming up, right? Even if, say, you were striking, like, how many people do you know are striking like crazy in the first 10 minutes of practice? And as soon as the lights come on,
it's awful.
Yeah, it's because the lane changed.
And
it doesn't take that long. Like, sometimes by the time that 10 minutes is up, the lane's already changed.
I got you.
So, not even sometimes. It happens. It's just how quickly are you going to feel it? How sensitive is your ball going to be to it?
Yeah.
You're going to hear the term response time since you're in a pro shop a lot. And they're going to use it to refer to bowling balls. This ball's quicker, this ball's slower, that kind of stuff. But Rick made this term in the 1990s. He said 93 in there. And it ties together every performance factor. Everything that affects ball motion has a response time characteristic. And that's something that the industry gets wrong right now. So you have a response time characteristic as the bowler. The bowling ball does, the core does, the layout does, the lane surface does, the stage of transition you're in, the oil pattern, your fit, the way you hold the bowling ball, your fit has a response time. Like, everyththing has a response time. And that's not something that they're using correctly to do that. So the lane starts off when it's freshly oiled as a quicker response time pattern. All the oil's up front, the back ends are very clean because it was just oiled. So that's the quickest you're going to see the oil pattern that day. As you bowl on it, it starts to feel like there's less oil in the front and there's more oil moving down lane. And so the response time of the oil pattern gets slower. So to deal with those transitions, as the lane gets slower, the bowler needs to get quicker.
Yeah.
Right? The response time. That doesn't mean your speed necessarily. That means you need to get quicker to deal with the slower response time lane.
I got you.
And it's that simple. Right? It's not this surface and this ball and whatever. It's the lane's getting slower. This looks too slow. I need to make it quicker. Oh, that looks too quick. I'm going to make it a little bit slower. Right? And it gets to be that simple when you understand it like that. It doesn't need to be as complicated and as it's getting made to be. And it's a sliding scale.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not this ball is quick or this ball is slow. It's this ball is quicker, this ball is slower. Okay? I'm using my slower physical ranges, and now I need to get a little bit quicker. It's never I'm being the quickest, or I'm never being the slowest. I might be using the slowest ball I have, or the slowest, physical game I have, but that might still be quicker than somebody else's.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it.
So that's Rick's keeping it simple. I feel like that's a pretty good intro. I kind of brain dumped on some of that.
No, I mean, I got it all.
Don't say that, because
I received what I could.
Yeah, when
we're
talking about it, it makes sense. But I'm skeptical if you'll be able to use it immediately. It's just a lot to process.
I mean, I break down things a lot just like on my own. Like I overanalyze everything, so I'm always thinking about all the variables and like the constants and everything. So whenever it's some like if I'm not in the perspective to start paying attention to something like that, I won't think about it. But once it's like brought to my attention, then it's kind of I'm not ever gonna not think about it again. Like it just gets stuck with me. Kind of like just hyper focus on paying attention to things if I can.
Then if you're gonna do that, I would be hyper focused on the rotation of the bowling ball.
All right.
Watch that as it's going down the lane. Watch it for you. Watch it for everybody. And if you get good at that, you'll be able to predict what's going to happen before it happens. I was at a tour stop with my buddy because he was bowling the PTQ a couple years ago. And then we were out in Kansas, and Rick lives out there, so we were hanging out with Rick. And then I was sort of helping Prather, and we were standing behind him in match play, and he was bowling against Belmo. And for 9 of the 10 shots before Belmo even stepped up on the approach, I called what he was going to leave before he left it. And the only time I was wrong was because he jumped 20 left and threw it like 2 miles an hour slower. And I was like, all right, how am I going to predict that?
Yeah.
Just simply because I could read the rotation of his bowling ball, and I kind of understood what types of moves he would make.
I got you.
So the more in tune you are with the rotation of the ball, the better your moves get. It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to strike all the time, but that's going to be how you reduce your confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there anything you want to talk about, or you want me to elaborate on?
No, I mean, I think you covered a lot of good things, and I understood them all as of right now pretty well. So
Good. Bryant, is there anything you want to add or talk about? I don't want to just hog it, even though I've been yapping the whole time.
yeah, I get to hear Bryant yap all the time.
Yeah. You don't get to hear me yap that much?
Not well.
I feel like I've gotten a little bit of a break from from Bryant now.
I mean, when I do talk to you, there's always going to be yapping, but definitely a lot more from Bryant because I'm always around him. So
Yeah, unless you guys have something else that you're interested in, or you want to talk about with your own bowling and how to apply it, or any of that stuff. Right, the stuff I was doing today is just more like conceptual.
I mean, I think that's a good amount of stuff.
I mean, the only way to like apply it is kind of just to look for it and watch how it happens.
Yeah, to perceive
There's
it.
no real way to practice it.
Yep.
I don't know. Watching other people's balls, watching videos, putting tape on your ball and doing it when you're practicing. Like those are all things I was doing to train my eyes. And I have people. Like my buddy Sam, when he was still bowling, would send me videos of on Instagram of random pros and being like, "Is this good ball motion? Is that good ball motion?" That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we would talk about it like that. One of the college kids I work with actually just messaged me last night and was like, "Hey, if I grab some videos or grab some like title matches or whatever from the PBA, can we talk about their ball motion and what their moves are and what would have been good moves and bad moves and stuff like that?" So I think at some point I'm going to do that with him. No, Asante actually. Yeah. Asante, did I show the videos to you last week, Bryant? With the extension sequence? Yeah, he sent me new ones, and it's much better. And he's like, my shot making is way better. Like, I'm not spraying it everywhere. It's not a guess which, where it's going off my hand. And he's throwing it faster, which he was already throwing it pretty hard. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing yet. I really don't know much about where he bowls. So he probably needs to get better at the speed control while still having that good extension and explosion. Yeah. I think he's back in Ohio. Wright State. But yeah, no, he's doing good stuff. Javon was messaging me. I haven't responded yet because I've been in here, but he was practicing today, and he was telling me that the pins at the center he was bowling at are flying around for his roommate, but are not flying around for him. And it's like Javon certainly throws it hard enough to get his pins moving around, but his ball typically, when he's not moving pins around, is skidding too much. So it's like traveling to the back of the building more than it's traveling towards the pins. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But I need to watch the videos and see what he was saying before I form a strong opinion. Moose, you need a haircut.
What?
You need a haircut.
I just got my haircut.
Just one?
I just got my haircut today.
You only cut one hair?
All right. I got my hairs cut.
All of them?
Yes, all of them. Well, not all of them, but
Top and bottom?
I'm turning off my video. Fuck y'all. I hate y'all. Y'all are annoying. I didn't even realize. Fuck y'all. Jeez, y'all. Fuck you, Bryant. Who asked for the commentary?
That's his specialty, man. Come on.
I think it's funny that I started it and Brian's getting blamed.
Yeah, right?
Always Bryant, though. That's why. I don't know. It was the first one I thought of.
I don't know how Jacob feels every time you blame him for breaking the lane.
I think if we're going to keep doing these, I'm probably going to keep going over a lot of the conceptual stuff until it gets to a point where you guys all understand it enough to use it. And then at this rate, maybe. But at some point,
Thank you.
I mean, it's been 2 years, and what are we doing?
Oh, yeah. Lord.
Yeah.
Damn.
At some point, we're going to have to make the transition of like, okay, this is how you're going to start to use it for your own game. And then, Logan, like, your physical game's still evolving because you started two-handed, what, a year ago now, maybe? Maybe less?
It was beginning of this year, so...
Okay, so 8 months ago, maybe? 6 months ago, whatever. So all this stuff will still help you a lot when you understand it. Mm-hmm. It's just as your ball roll changes, your choices will change with it, and your learning curve as you make these improvements will be shorter if you're thinking about it this way.
I gotcha.
So keep working hard on what you're doing, and start to try to incorporate some of what you're learning here into your leagues and your practices and stuff. And some of it I've already like thrown at you, like getting you and Javon to bowl each other and doing the clear the deck stuff and whatever.
Yeah, I still gotta make copies of that actually. Yeah,
like those are good things because that'll force you to evaluate, your spare shooting, how good you are at following your own transition, like all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And your choices will start to change just based on that. So just keep
I also
working
have
hard at it.
Forget what the name of it is. It's a score tracking app that Bryant talked about. I have that one where you can actually, yeah,
M10 toolkit.
where you can like leave notes on if you hit like high or low, so that way I can like kind of keep track of what type of entry angle and just other just stuff that I might want to consider about with the variables that I know I'm having and what I'm doing.
Yeah, the being able to see the shapes and angles that you want to play. How do I want to say it? Don't get too caught up in like a specific type of entry angle, because you're going to hear a lot of crap about like 6 degrees is the best entry angle and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you've already told me about how like when EJ Tack is throwing his best, he's probably using less than or like around 2 degrees of entry
probably
angle
3 to 4 for EJ. Probably closer to 4 for EJ, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's not that one's right and one's wrong. It's ultimately I want you to be able to do all of it, and if you make the choice to say, okay, I want to use 6 degrees, I want you to be able to.
Mm-hmm.
So there are strategic reasons why you would use less and why you would use more at certain stages of transition and certain ball rolls and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So right now, I don't think you need to do anything different besides paying attention to the rotation.
Yeah.
And I think, I think the more you get in tune with that, we can start talking about how you can manipulate that. Like, okay, I saw my ball do this. Now, how do I make it look different? That kind of stuff. And just be aware with the pro shop stuff and the bowling balls. They're gonna try to tell you this ball on this layout makes this shape, and it's not wrong, but it's not always right either.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, I don't really. I mean, I listen to that stuff as in like, so then I know how to sell stuff, but I don't listen to stuff like and be like, oh, well, this does this, blah blah blah. I just kind of like.
Yeah, because it's like
one ear out the other, kind of a little bit, but I mean,
if you were to challenge any of the really good bowlers with any bowling ball, they could make them make any shape they wanted on basically any lane condition. Honestly, I've seen Sam Cooley use 7 degrees of entry angle on a strip lane.
Wow.
So when I say that, I'm not, and it wasn't with plastic. Like, so like when I'm saying that, I'm not saying that because I want to. I'm saying it because I've seen it.
Yeah.
So the more versatile you are, the better, and the more open your mind is to being to doing that stuff, the more creative you can be. And the creative people usually solve problems faster in the moment than the technical people.
Gotcha.
So that's my soapbox. That's my rant for the day.
Well, I appreciate going over all that stuff. I was working the last 2 times or however many times it was. So I actually recently changed my thing so I can do Tuesdays instead of Fridays. So I'm gonna be joining if I can more often and get more information.
Nice. Just know some Fridays I won't be here because if I'm traveling or something for competition or whatever, then we just won't do them. But the ones I'm here, I'll definitely do it.